So what defines a person of wisdom? First, look at the top of the head, the crown. A high, wide forehead is one of the first signs. Next, if you want to develop wisdom, should your eyes be dull or bright? Wisdom starts with observation. Then comes analysis, then comes insight. You can't analyze what you haven't seen. So, if there's no observation, how can the brain even work? That's why sharp, clear eyes, where the whites and the pupils are well defined, are key. Bright, alert eyes fuel the mind. But observation doesn't stop with the eyes. Next comes the ears. Large ears, especially ones that are set close to the head, are a good sign. Ears that stick out often mean someone listens in a narrow, one-dimensional way, mainly to what's right in front of them. But ears close to the head? That suggests someone who listens from all angles. Big, thick ears show strong listening ability. Thin ears, after a while they get irritated and tune out. Those are the ones that metaphorically pull away from truth. Then comes the nose. Eyes and ears represent perception, what you take in. But the nose, that's about execution, how you act on what you know. A high, well-shaped nose belongs to someone who thinks clearly and translates thought into practical solutions. A low nose? The mind might come up with ideas, but they struggle to act on them because the thinking isn't grounded in reality. So yes, a strong nose often reflects strong willpower and intelligence. Now let's talk about the mouth. Is it input or output? Sure, eating is input, but speaking, that's the output. So here's the flow. Eyes and ears are inputs. They gather information. The forehead represents thought, where ideas are formed. The nose puts those thoughts into action, and the mouth, that's how we express them. So if someone is intelligent, how do they speak? Do they ramble or do they get to the point? They're clear, coherent, easy to follow. That's it. It's not complicated. Round lips, thin lips, dark lips, whatever. If they speak clearly and make sense, life's good. So that's 5 key ideas above. Now for the final 3, they form what we might call the 3 treasures: a great teacher, great books, and great friends. People of wisdom always seek the right environment. They walk away from chaotic spaces without hesitation. They read deeply. They choose books that matter. They don't waste time on fluff. They don't waste time on novels. Maybe they skim through them, but that's it. What they focus on are great books, books of depth, of timeless value. Second, they surround themselves with good people. They choose quality learning environments. If a class is disorganized or shallow, they don't bother joining. And when it comes to mentors, they know how to build strong connections. People of wisdom are always connected to great teachers because they know it's hard to find a true teacher, so once they do, they stay close. When they have questions, they ask. When they need guidance, they know whom to turn to. You've heard the saying, without a teacher, you can't achieve greatness. But let's be clear, your teacher has to deserve that title. Follow the wrong one? You follow your life into ruin. Now let's shift from wisdom to willpower. Where do we look to understand someone's drive? The nose. The nose reveals willpower. In women, it also symbolizes their relationship with their husband. A strong nose reflects a strong partner. Choose the wrong husband. That choice can bring your whole life down. But nowadays, many women don't marry at all. So in those cases, the nose may reflect their career, their path, their drive. Want to gauge someone's determination? Look at their nose. A straight, high nose is a strong sign, but also look at what surrounds it. In face reading, the nose is one of the 5 mountains, the central peak. If the features around it are in harmony, balanced, aligned, It reinforces the strength of the nose. Bright, focused eyes help too. All the main features should support one another. Eyes that are bright and commanding, that's the look of willpower. If the gaze is too soft, too gentle, it might signal a lack of inner strength. You want eyes that shine, with quiet authority. And then, the voice. A strong, clear, resonant voice reflects inner energy. But if someone speaks in a breathy, weak tone, it often means they're running low on life force. And with that, willpower slips too. Next, their movements. Decisive, clear, no hesitation. But perhaps most important of all, true stillness in the face of joy and sorrow. That's number 6. And it's a big one. You don't get that from birth. You earn it through practice. Take the eagle. When it catches the snake, does it celebrate? Number. It stays calm. It flies back to its nest and eats like nothing happened. No fuss, no drama. That's composure. A person who has both a powerful gaze and emotional stillness. That's rare. Most people with a warrior's face may look intense, even intimidating. But when conflict hits, they flare up. They lose it. That's willpower, yes, but it leans into anger, and that's not ideal. Want to know if someone has true resilience? Ask about their past. Did they take on challenges, step into risk, or did they always choose the safe path? The eagle lives dangerously from day one. It builds its nest high on a cliff or a tall tree with no roof. Rain or shine, it sleeps. The young eagles get drenched like wet mice in a storm, and that's just life. They accept it. That's strength. So the question is, have you been forged by difficulty? Have you faced real storms in life? Because that's what reveals the eagle inside you. It's not just about having the right features, a high nose, a commanding gaze, a strong, resonant voice, decisive movements. Those are signs, yes. But if your past has been filled with tests and trials, then that potential has been activated. If not, then it's time to forge it yourself. The traits may be there, but they still need shaping. They still need fire. And now, let's talk about motivation. There are 2 kinds of motivation. The first comes from inner strength, willpower. That kind lasts. The second comes from desire, especially the desire for reward. And that, it fades. Here's how it works. Your boss says, hey, finish this project well and I'll give your team $1 million. 10 people hear that and suddenly everyone's working like crazy. Then bam! COVID hits. Boss says, we're in the red. That bonus? Gone. What happens? The energy vanishes. No one wants to work anymore. That's motivation built on greed. And greed doesn't last. Now, if someone's motivation comes from willpower, real inner drive, then even when COVID hits, they work harder. They say, double the challenge, we'll double the effort. Whether we get the bonus or not, it doesn't matter anymore. We love this project because it challenges us. That's what motivation rooted in willpower looks like. Compare that to someone whose drive is based on greed. The moment they hear, no more bonus, they deflate. Suddenly, they lose all enthusiasm. Next day, they submit their resignation. No passion, no purpose, just disappointment. That's what happens when motivation is driven by desire, and desire doesn't last. A lot of people ask me, teacher, if I eliminate desire, won't I lose all motivation to live? And to that I say, no, that's naive. When you let go of desire, you don't lose energy. You redirect it. You take that same force, the fire that once fed your cravings, and shift it into your willpower, into purpose, into discipline. Instead of pouring that energy into wanting, pour it into doing, into becoming. Desire, attachment, craving, they're all part of the same thing. We often call it greed, but if you want to soften the term, call it clinging. Call it expectation, wanting, needing. No matter what name you give it, it pulls you away from freedom. But with awareness, that same energy can set you free. Now, if you look closely, you'll notice this. In general, women tend to have more prominent cheekbones than men. And psychologically, this often translates into stronger emotional attachment, more craving, more clinging. That's why in 9 out of 10 divorce cases, it's usually the mother who insists on keeping the child. Not always out of pure love, but out of attachment. Let's start with the cheekbones. High, pronounced cheekbones, especially if the bone sticks out sharply, signal strong yang energy. And when features protrude like that, it reflects intensity. This intensity shows up in the eyes and the voice too. If the eyes are drawn toward beauty and money, if the voice reveals an obsession with beauty and money, that's a red flag. I'll explain those two in more detail in a moment. People with this combination often compare themselves to others, compete unnecessarily, and feel jealous easily. That kind of envy, always comparing, always resenting, is what some people call jealous of everything, angry at everyone. If the eyes are sharp and exposed, the voice harsh and accusatory, these are signs that in a relationship this person may bring harm to their partner. Not always consciously, but the tendency is there. And if the jawline is wide and square, that often points to a stubborn, defiant personality. Strong voice, yes, but a confrontational energy. Yang energy can be powerful, but when it's unbalanced, it becomes hard-headed and difficult to reason with. People with strong, square jawlines, they're often very headstrong. Touch their ego and they'll walk away, no hesitation. Take someone with a square face, a firm voice, and a solid presence. If you call them out in front of a crowd, yell at them publicly, they'll likely quit on the spot. But bring that same person into a private room, offer them a cup of coffee and gently ask, "Hey, what's going on? You seem off lately. Anything I can help with?" Give them space to talk and they'll open up. Once they do, you can find a way to support them. The key is don't humiliate them in front of others. You can give tough feedback, but do it in small doses. These are people with big pride, strong self-image. Shame them too much and they won't stay, no matter how high their salary is. They don't quit because of money. They quit because of pride. Learn to recognize that. On the flip side, someone with a round, kind-looking face. You could scold them all day and they'd still smile. They don't take it personally. They might even say, "Well, it was my fault. My boss was right to be tough." Totally normal. But a square jaw? That signals stubbornness. If pushed too hard, they'll choose pride over reason, every time. Now let's talk about eyes and voices drawn toward beauty and money. Let me tell you a story. There were once 2 young men who traveled to the capital to prepare for the imperial exam. Back then, the national exam was held only once every 3 years. Not like today, where exams happen every year. They rented a small room to live and study in. Behind their room was an empty plot of land, so they agreed to dig it up and plant vegetables. Since they'd be living there for a full year to prepare, growing their own food would save trips to the market, and they'd have fresh, clean produce too. One day while digging the soil, student A struck something buried beneath. It was an old coin. He casually tossed the coin to the side of the path, thinking, "I'll finish this patch first, then I'll wash the coin and maybe use it later." But student B saw what happened. He immediately stopped digging, ran over and asked if he could have the coin. Student B said, "Since you clearly don't care about the coin, why don't you give it to me? I'll go wash it. This coin could feed us for a whole month. Why keep digging? We can always finish the garden next month." And just like that, the first sign appeared. The moment he saw money, his original purpose collapsed. Their goal was to grow vegetables for the entire year, not to chase after a single coin. The coin was just a side benefit, something to deal with later. But student B let that side goal become the main goal. Why? Because of desire. That's how it starts. He planted the seed of greed in his mind without even realizing it. Time passed. One day the two students were studying upstairs when they heard noise from the street below. A government official was passing through. Soldiers were clearing the road, leading the way, and the official sat high atop a grand palanquin. Both students rushed out to the balcony to watch. One of them, student A, stood there for 5 minutes, then quietly turned back inside and resumed studying. Meanwhile, student B stayed out on the balcony for a whole hour. He watched the procession pass and couldn't stop admiring it. So grand, so powerful, he sighed. I wish I could be a high-ranking official like that someday. Now, what kind of desire was operating at that moment? Not greed for money, but greed for power. Back when he was digging in the garden, it was about money. Now, it was all about position. And what happened to their original goal, preparing for the exam? Gone. Completely forgotten. His mind had drifted entirely to wealth and power. Now imagine, if this guy actually passed the exam and became an official, what kind of official would he be? A noble one? Number A, corrupt one. And student A knew it. So later, while student B was away, student A took a knife and slashed the mat they had been sharing. When B returned an hour later, A pointed to the tear and said, "You and I, we're no longer friends. If you want to leave, go find your own place. If you stay, fine, but we don't talk anymore. I want nothing to do with someone like you. Someone like you, if you ever became an official, would only bring harm to the people and the country." See that? This young man didn't study face reading, but his observation, his analysis, and his insight were razor sharp. So what is physiognomy, really? It's the process of observing, analyzing, and drawing conclusions about a person's outer appearance and inner nature. That's it. Nothing mystical. Anyone who can clearly understand what the features reveal and what they reflect inside is already practicing face reading. It's not about being born with some special gift. Now imagine this. If you observe thousands of people over time and take notes, you'll naturally build a database. That becomes your book on face reading. Even if you just observe 3 people a day, just 5 or 10 minutes each. In 1 year, you'll have studied over 1,000. In 10 years? Tens of thousands. And that's how experience is built. So, you'll notice it in their eyes and tone of voice when someone's captivated by beauty or money. If you pay close attention, you'll catch it. Ever been to a wedding and noticed it? A few beers in, and then a girl walks in, sits right across from you, dressed provocatively and made up beautifully. Just watch the table. Who's the one whose eyes are flickering the most? Without a doubt, that guy's got something going on inside. Simple as that. And you see, it starts with the eyes. That's where the mind's intentions show. From there, it turns into speech karma, the way someone starts flirting or saying suggestive things. And then it becomes body karma. When he starts touching her arm, her leg, putting his arm around her for a picture, that's how it flows. Just observe with some awareness, and you'll see it right away. All right? Now the main point of this whole 3 courts, 5 peaks stuff, go home and write about it. Write as much as you want. People with wisdom, reckless types, the ones with willpower, or those who give up easily. The kind-hearted, the scheming and petty, the greedy and demanding, the stubborn, the anxious and insecure, the loyal and the traitorous. Reflect on it yourself. What makes someone loyal? What makes someone deceitful? What are the facial features of a loyal person? What features suggest betrayal? What personality traits show loyalty and which show treachery? Write it all down. Once it's on paper, you'll see it clearer. Oh, and think about this too. Those who act and those who imagine. The doers are yang types, yang but grounded in reality. The dreamers tend to be emotional and have an excess of mental energy, big foreheads, protruding brows. People who are technical experts or managers, the poor or the wealthy. Those distinctions are up to you to explore. Just start writing, bit by bit. I haven't written it all out either. Even books don't cover everything. We have to sit down and write it out ourselves.